Good evening. My name is Christelle from France, the Klerk Independent Technical Analysts. I want to start with Anglo American this week. I need to make a correction from the video I did 2 weeks ago on the Fibonacci retracement. I was corrected, and rightly so. When we think about Fibonacci, we want to identify support and resistance levels, right? And we choose the recent high and a recent low. And when you draw them, you would start, if you're looking for support levels, you start with the recent low and you work your way up to the recent high. Why? Because then when the share price turns around, it obviously accelerates. So you start with the 23.6% level is the first level. Then you work yourself down to 38.2, 50%, 61, and even lower should that strong support at the 100% level at this in this low at 453 Rand starts to change into resistance. I mean, the support levels are even lower than that. I made the mistake to start at the top and work myself downwards, and that is right, because obviously if you're looking for resistance levels, that's what you'll do. You'll start at the top, that will be your 100%, and you'll draw it down, and your 0% will be at the bottom again. All right, so let's just confirm the strong support levels that has now changed into resistance. The 23.6 level has done that already, waiting at 591 Rand 85. My next support in Anglo is waiting at 555 Rand 29, which is my 38.2% level, and then 525 Rand 74, 496 Rand 19, 454 Rand 12, and 400 Rand and 53 cents. When the share price should at some stage enough buyers get attracted to the share again and feel that there's value and they start to protect the price, then that strong resistance in the week of the 29th of April waiting at 652 Rand 51 needs to change into a support again, and then I can assume that the momentum to the top will continue. So I do apologize about that, but yeah, I don't want to make excuses, but sometimes I think of ahead of what I'm going to say and doing it way too fast. I do apologize about that. The second one on our list here is South 32. Ticker on our exchange, S32, and we can see last week's candle is a beautiful example of a shooting star, right? The rally in the share price is visible. The share price has stopped making new highs. I've got a candle with a long shadow at the top. That tells me that there was selling pressure, right? It tells me the high of the share was 50 Rand and 18 cents, and yet they managed to close at 47.83. It tells me that in that week, the sellers were the strongest party, and that tells me that, listen, the selling pressure might continue, and we can see that has been followed this week by the belt hold line candle that looks like it wants to take the share even lower, right? So above last week's high, which is waiting at 50 Rand 18, we can assume then again that the momentum to the top will continue, and below the low, and that is waiting at 47.63, we can assume that the momentum to the bottom is in place. My MACD confirms that it's still green, confirms that it's still a bullish trend in place. It's only when that zero line, the signal line, starts to change into a resistance that I can say, hey, the bearish trend towards this share is now in place. We're still above the 40-week moving average, which tells us that the long-term sentiment towards South 32 is still positive. However, there is a window here, and the window is between the week of the 22nd of April and the 29th of April, and that window is waiting between 42 Rand and 4 cents and 42 Rand and 52 cents, right? So a window is a gap, especially on weekly graphs where no trading has taken place, and it acts as a strong, in this case, support level that tells me that as long as that window remains open, the momentum to the top is in place. But the window can also act as a level that the share price can go to retrace and close it. And by that I mean between those two levels, trading needs to take place. In other words, the share price needs to close there or move within that range that I've just given. That means the window is closed. The rules around windows or gaps are that they remain open and it can take decades, but they have to close at some stage. So that's a level that one can aim for should the selling pressure continue. And then obviously the next strong support is waiting that 40-week moving average, 40 Rand 77. Below that level, the long-term sentiment towards the share will change to negative again. Very, very important. My 40-week moving average was a strong level of support and resistance on this graph. We can see there in the week of or in the month of May and June of 2023, fighting it. Once it changed that 40-week into a resistance, it was downside. It tested it again here in January of this year, week of 8th of Jan, 15th of Jan, could not change it into a support, retraced. But now, once it changed it into support, beautiful upside. So 40 Rand 77, a critical level on South 32 that needs to remain a support in order to sustain the momentum to the top. Quilter, also a recent favorite on our market, had a beautiful rally to the top when that 40-week moving average in the week of the 30th of October 2023 changed into a support. Look at that beautiful turnaround, right? A beautiful example of a morning star formation, a 3-candle pattern, a bearish candle, a doji type of candle, followed by a bullish engulfing candle, and that tells me the night is behind us, and that was the new dawn that was introduced to Quilter. And I mean, ever since then we just saw recent record highs, and it moved from strength to strength. However, last week's candle is another example of a shooting star candle, and the negativity of this candle will be confirmed is if this week's candle is a bearish type of candle, a belt line candle, a negative type of candle, right? In other words, closing below the low of the previous low of that shooting star candle, and that is 28 Rand and 12 cents. So at the moment, as long as the share price continues below 28 Rand 12, we can assume more downside. However, the strong resistance on Quilter is waiting at 29.83. Above that level again, we can assume that the momentum to the top will continue. On my MACD, the bullish trend is still in place. Beautiful green bars. My two moving averages, the 26 and 12, pointing nicely upwards. So it might be a small pullback, a little bit of profit taking from the traders, and then maybe some upside again. But you can use, any other candles or other horizontal lines, Fibonacci levels, to identify support and resistance levels. But this is a strong candle in the week of the 27th of May, and below that low, and that is waiting at 26 Rand 15, we can see more downside, and that is a strong support level at the moment. And then that 40-week, as I said, 23.46, a strong level of support that has kept the momentum to the top in place, and that has confirmed that the long-term sentiment towards this share is a positive. Discovery. There is a beautiful example here in the making of and I want to change this to a line graph to take the noise out, of a beautiful possible a double bottom, and I'm going to call this a distorted double bottom because the second loop of my double bottom is a little bit higher than the previous one. And then some might say, Christelle, no, this is then a cup and handle formation. Either way, it tells us there's a turnaround story in the making. And I'm saying in the making because the optimism and the formations will only be confirmed once that resistance waiting at 117 Rand 66 starts to change into a support. And remember, these are weekly graphs. In other words, the share price needs to close above that on a Friday close, and then you make your decision on the Monday. Double bottom, triple bottoms, inverse head and shoulder formations, cup and handle formations are all positive formations that tell us or hints that the negativity is behind us, and this might be the new start for some upside on Discovery. What I also like about this graph is the fact that this support is a little bit higher than this support, is a little bit higher than this support. That tells me on the longer view on Discovery going back to 2022, the buyers of Discovery feel that at these levels, they prepare to protect the price at an even higher level than the previous times, despite all the news around the National Health Insurance Bill, etc. 40-week moving average at the moment is still a resistance, but a nice target that one can aim for should this cup and handle or distorted double bottom be confirmed, and that 40 week is waiting at 129.55. When will the optimism around this possible turnaround pattern be off the table? When that's a strong support waiting at 109.66 starts to change into a resistance again. Then I can say, listen, for now the formation is off the table. Let's see what the buyers and sellers do and see which one comes out the strongest. My MACD is still bearish, confirming a bearish trend, right? It's only when that signal line starts to change into a support, when that 12 and 26 moving averages cross one another to the upside, that's when I can say, listen, there's optimism on the chart and that the bullish trend will be confirmed. So at this, and this will probably happen once that resistance waiting at 170.66 starts to change into a support. But a beautiful opportunity that one can maybe make use of here if that distorted double bottom gets confirmed on discovery. IRBO, this was a very nice request. It's the iShares Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF, listed obviously in America. And iShares, I mean, they've got a lot. iShares is obviously the brand that's got a lot of ETFs, but the ticker on this ETF is IRBO. Now we know all the hype around artificial intelligence and robotics and how they're going to change our lives, etc., etc. So this is a nice ETF that one can have a look at to maybe accumulate over time, because you do not necessarily want to invest in a company, because like technology, it comes and goes very quickly. But this is a technical graph that I'm very excited about. Great. Why? There is a possible, again, cup and handle formation. If I start the formation here, a beautiful cup, tested that neckline, first handle, tested the neckline, second handle, tested the neckline, third handle, tested the neckline. Now, the neckline is waiting at $34.63, right? If that level starts to change into a support, this beautiful cup and handle will confirm optimism and telling me that, listen, the momentum to the top can continue and we might see this ETF at higher levels. My 40-week moving average waiting at $32.77 is also a support at the moment, telling me that the long-term sentiment towards this ETF is positive. Now, the lowest part of the handle is obviously this first handle, and that is waiting at $28.37, the closing price on this line graph, right? So below $28.37, optimism around that cup and handle will be off the table again. And then I can say, listen, the momentum to the top, to the bottom is in place, and then we'll have to wait to see if there's other formations. But beautiful cup and handle formation here. My strong support that needs to hold here is obviously my 40-week waiting at 32.77, and then that handle, and that is waiting at 28.37. Bristol Myers, beautiful example here as well. I just want to maybe just not just the share. There you go. Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I want to look at this candle graph. Again, my MACD hasn't confirmed yet, but a beautiful example of a dragonfly candle, right? I want to zoom out a little bit here. A long lower shadow. That tells me again that the buyers were prepared to accumulate in the dips when the share price hit the low there of $39.91 and protected it all the way up to close at $41.09. That is positive. Beautiful positive belt hook line, bullish engulfing candle in this week in the making. Positive candle. My next strong resistance is obviously waiting there at $43.99, and when I'm going to start to see this higher lows on Bristol Myers, that will be very, very positive, because the share price has given false positives in the past, and we can see that 40-week waiting at $50.34 is again a critical level of resistance that needs to change into a support. And it tested it before, right? And there wasn't enough buying interest to take it through that 40-week moving average. So let's hope that this case, in this, this time around, they can get it. But that dragonfly candle is telling me it's a turnaround candle, right? And the positive bullish types of candles that have followed it confirmed the optimism. Strong support is waiting there at $39.91, and that is the critical level of support that needs to remain in place in order to sustain the momentum to the top. And if I go back, we can see the last time Bristol Myers traded at these levels were back in September 2013, right? 11 years ago, right? That the share price traded around these levels. So very interesting. Let's see if higher lows are visible. Keep that support. Write it down. 39.91. Strong levels of support that needs to hold on Bristol Myers. But let's hope that this dragonfly candle rings the bell for a turnaround in the share price. Don't forget to send through your requests for next week's show, either via Twitter or email us at admin@franseklerk.com. Have a fantastic week. Take care.